By the way, Leah,
Yes.
the background is almost white, but you're going to make it different, are you?
Yeah, I think we'll just play with it.
Okay.
I just more like the shape of the flowers here. So
Right.
yeah, we're definitely going to play with that. And if you're working in oil today, which is what the demo is going to be in, it's not, we're probably not going to finish this painting. If you're working in acrylic, you might be able to, or it just depends on how fast or slow you work. What I really love about this piece, and I'm going to show you the painting, is that it's a fantastic follow-up to sunflowers, which we did last week. So here is like the demo of the sunflower that we did last week. There's a lot of similarities to how we handle daisies. I'm going to remind you how not to do a daisy. I'm going to remind you how you're going to do it. Huh?
I just sent you one, Leah. This is the one I had been thinking of working on.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Scarlett, are you on our thread as well?
I joined the WhatsApp.
Okay, good.
But I haven't really looked at it yet.
Okay. We're going to start using it in just a second. Where are we? So you'll get a picture, a copy of this picture. Got it. I see you. Okay. Where is it, Sandra?
Oh, didn't I send it to a thread?
Mm-mm.
The Sunday thread?
Nope.
Yes.
There it is. I see it.
Oh, there it is. It just came through. Oh, great. Okay, so you can use that one. That's a nice background.
It's very
That's a nice background.
beautiful.
Okay.
And, yeah.
All right. Let me start to go through some of the basics here, because there's a lot to go through. All right. So if we're talking about how not to do a flower with a lot of petals, this is how you're going to want to do it at some point. And I'm just letting you know now the mistakes you're going to make, right? The mistakes we all make. Number one is, what's this mistake? Pat, anybody? Sandra?
What is the mistake?
What's
You're
this
doing
mistake?
it wrong. That's the mistake.
Yeah,
Well,
what's wrong? What's wrong?
Well, the middle is like a perfect circle.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent. So most of these are not like, this one's fairly round, but most of these are not perfect. What else is wrong here?
They're not overlapping.
Right. Also, what else is wrong?
They don't end in
Yep. What else is wrong? Yep. They don't end in points. Okay. There's a few in points. What's wrong with this picture?
Soldiers, they're arranged like soldiers.
The little soldiers, right?
There.
This looks like, and we are going to review a couple. Thank you, Sandra. That's my favorite word. Like when you're drawing grass or you're drawing petals, where you just start drawing everything exactly the same. That is absolutely not what's happening here.
Or trees.
And the overwhelm with these is that, like, we don't really know how to handle many petals, multiple petals. So the challenge is going to be that we're going to, just like with the sunflower last week, we're going to group petals in kind of bigger clusters that are going in a certain direction. And we're going to be doing less. We're not going to be drawing out the outline for every petal because it doesn't look right. It looks weird in a painting. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. It's real easy. Last week I was doing sunflowers and you can kind of see, gosh, this yellow is still not dry. You can kind of see in this sunflower that, like, instead of painting, and this is not done yet, but instead of painting every petal, I'm kind of working on groups. Like there's not really a lot of detail between these petals, right? It's more like kind of a dark cluster. And then there's kind of a light cluster. So when you try to like what do you call it? Ideate, like, you know, sort of spell out each petal. Number one, we exaggerate the size of things. So we make things too big and they look weird. And number two, like it kind of ruins the sense of layers in a petal, right? Because there's actually like several layers. So let me show you. There's some pretty bad daisies out there. I normally don't show like examples of bad work, but I think it's important to see how people struggle with this and what it looks like, because we are going to try and avoid some of those things. Painting daisies. All right. Give me just a second here. Yes, perfect. We'll come up here. Okay, so I'm going to share for a minute my screen so you guys can see. Wait, where are you? So if you can see this daisy that I've kind of highlighted up here, this big
Nothing
one on the right.
screen. There you go.
Yeah. You can see that this person kind of tried to, she's got this little soldier, he or she has this little soldier thing going, right? So the painting doesn't really look complete, and these spaces are all way too regular. We know in nature, and here too, kind of like, you could see they tried to do more here, like just kept putting more and more like rhythmic patterns together. And here, this doesn't really feel very, it doesn't feel very like full of depth. It feels fairly like, it's just kind of flat. Let's see here, what's another one that's kind of, I think this person, this is another one. Can you see this one? Can you guys see this one still?
Yeah.
Sometimes
well,
when I
it
switch,
went away.
right?
There you
So
go.
when you look at it, it just looks flat, right? Because there's not, you can see they tried to get kind of variation in here. But the thing is, these strong contour lines that go around each petal, we don't really see them. We see some contour lines, but we don't see all of them. So one of the things we're going to be, and I'm showing you this to show you that like people struggle with this, even like artists who've been doing this a while really struggle with how much detail or how little detail to put in. I'm going to really push you towards less detail because I think less detail shows movement. I'm just looking here to see if I can see ones that I think look kind of nice. Oh yeah, I have a great one example to show you. There's a pastel and painting teacher I have named Jen Evanhus. She does amazing work. You might not be, can you see that? I think I have to stop this here and bring it back up.
There you
again.
go.
Here,
No,
hold on.
that's not it.
Hold on. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? Can you guys see that?
Mhm.
I can see it.
So really what I want you to observe, now this is not even her finished painting, is that she doesn't paint every petal, but you have the feeling of groups of petals and clusters of petals. One of the things is she's got pretty strong shadow areas, right? The other thing is not all these petals have strong lines defining them between groups. The strength and the definition is where kind of a cluster maybe meets the background, like here. There's a little bit of petal differentiation where a lighter petal meets a darker petal. See that? But for the most part, this is like kind of one group. This is a group. This is a group with little bits on the edges. So less is more, is what I'm saying. And look at the level of depth she's got, because her, she's in Spokane, wonderful artist and a great person. She's in Spokane. One of the things I like is how her darks really help to emphasize. Look at how anytime a light area meets a dark area, there's a slightly bit more definition, but not even here does she bring all the lines back. See that? So that is actually, so less is more. When it comes to painting kind of multi-petaled flowers, less is more. So how do you do that? That's another thing entirely. Anybody have questions about that before we get started? No? Does it make sense? Kind of follow up, Pat, with what we did in sunflowers?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually seeing the groups.
You're seeing the groups. Yay. All right. So I'm going to, oh, wait, no, I don't want to draw on this one. I'm going to start with a drawing using pencil on canvas. And this helps us kind of see so Charlotte, your observation earlier that like the circles aren't necessarily all perfectly round. They're not also necessarily perfectly centered. If we look up here, you'll see that they're closer to the top because of the way this petal is formed this one. It's a little bit rounder. This guy is just a proper like curve and a straight line. So our starting marks are going to be these orange marks. I'm not worried about the background. I'm not worried about stems. We can add those in later. We're more interested in these envelopes of shape. So I'm working on like an 8 by 10 inch sheet of paper. And I'm going to send a picture of this across to you guys. I want to send you a picture of this little sketch so you can see it close if you're having trouble seeing it online. Here is the photo of the color, which we'll return to shortly.
I'm just gonna go grab something.
Do it. I'm sharpening my pencil. I see Pat's gonna grab something too. Oh. Okay, whenever you guys are ready, I'll get started. And Sammy, you go ahead and just send in your sketch of what you're working on. Thanks for sending it so I have it. All right. I love seeing that look on your face, Pat, as you're analyzing something in a new way. No, it's really cool. It's cool. It's cool. I like it. I'm just waiting a little bit for Scarlett to see if she's coming back anytime soon. Pat, if you know what to do, you can kind of do it. I mean, so we've got this, right? Fairly big. I might have made it too big. We'll find out. We've got this circle, and then this circle is definitely connected to this circle, and then this circle is definitely connected to this. I think that looks, let's see. Yep. Oh yeah, not bad. So the biggest circle is the one at the top. And Sandra, can I see your sketch before you get any further?
Me?
Yeah, when you're done. Yeah, as you're working.
I'm wolfing down lunch at the moment.
Oh, perfect. So you're
haven't
taking a-
started.
good. I know we got 3 hours. This is a long session. So, and notice that I'm kind of like trying to observe the actual shape of my flower instead of just doing a basic circle. This is kind of, particularly this one, this is a little bit more boxy. So essentially what we're doing is, and this is a great general drawing principle. When you start drawing, you start with the biggest shapes because that's the envelope upon which all of our other shapes are organized within. And since a tendency is to make things too big, everybody does it, I still do it. When we work on detail, we focus on the bigger picture stuff because that will help us get to the smaller. So we should have something that looks probably like fried eggs. And I'd like to see your shapes here first. Go ahead and send them across the thread. You can see I'm making mistakes as I go along and I'm correcting them. I feel like all of art is learning to accept and learn from the mistakes you make. If you can do that, you're golden. If you're kind of fragile about that and you want to be good at everything right outside the gate, it's not going to work for you so well. Even this circle seems to be a little bit, I'm kind of like, let me come down a little bit. See how I'm kind of moving my circle around and erasing and restarting. All right. So I'm going to take a picture of this, our little fried eggs here. And I'd love to see something like, I know you can see it up here, but I like to send it across the thread just because it's good. So go ahead and send that when you've got it. I thought Diana was going to join us today. Sandra, was I? Is she busy?
By the way, Leah,
Yeah.
that alarm, yesterday, it wasn't my house. I think it was Osiris.
Really?
Yeah, because I never heard it again. I have a feeling
That would make sense.
Still, I've taken out my batteries and I guess I should go around and change them all.
Right, it's probably a good idea. What's really annoying for us because we run this Airbnb is that they always go off in the like at 2 or 3 in the morning with people.
No, right? They always do.
And it's so annoying. Okay, let's see, Pat. Okay, Pat, couple things. This is too big here, right? You've got this happening. Right? So you've made this a perfectly equidistant circle. It's like, if you look up here, there's more space on the bottom than there is on the top.
Okay.
So you need to chop in this a little bit. The second thing is, you can't exactly see the ends of this. This has to be.
You're right.
And this is you've got this kind of oblong like this, but actually it's more like a proper circle.
More like a what?
Proper circle, a round circle. So really look at the shapes of things. All right, let's see. Scarlett, Scarlett, this is a little bigger, but you can make it bigger and a wider on the top. This one looks good. This one could be a little bigger also. Maybe mine could be a little smaller. Yours could be a little bigger and mine could be a little smaller. How's that? I know this seems very anal, but getting this stuff right at the beginning makes everything else so much easier. Nobody wants to do it.
It's very frustrating to miss
frustrating
that part
at first because
and then miss the painting because of it.
Right. And the problem is things take up different space than we think they do on the flat surface. So there's a bit of translation that has to happen. You kind of got to get accustomed to how big things are. In this particular case, this is bigger than we think it should be. Partly because that flower is coming towards us. So it's actually the closest thing. These two are close. That one's kind of farther away. Yeah. Scarlett, how are your fantastic kids?
They're good. Yeah. Soph's off at college and Rory's in high school this year.
It's just insane. Does it really happen that fast?
Nope.
No, not fast enough, maybe.
The days are slow and the years are fast.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and send them in when you've got them. And then we'll look at the next steps, and I'm going to try and spell these out for you so that they're kind of easy to see. I like to think it's kind of the way the sun works, right? That our petals will go in clusters in directions. It has to do with like how the wind and the rain kind of affect it. It has to do with kind of what time of year it is. Just trying to see where let's
And facing the sun, presumably, particularly for the sunflowers.
right, and it changes all the time, right? Because it changes because it's different times of year, and it's like just where you happen to be in the field. And I mean, you know, if you look at a tree branch, it's like that too. It doesn't go straight, right? It goes in, out, up, down. It kind of follows the light in this long-term way. So as we are, I think I'm going to do these. This one. This back one is just going to have, let's do 2. Let's do 3. There we go. We're going to start with these 3 divisions. So anyways, I'm always looking for kind of direction. Some of them are really obvious, like this clump here, like this little group here. Sometimes you can really, it's kind of divided by, I'll do that and this. Sometimes it's kind of divided by the negative space between a chunk of petals, right? Like here, negative space, right? It's the space between the object. We have to think about that as much as we think about anything else. So as you start to sketch these in, I'm going to sketch this guy in here, but then before I do anything else, I'm actually going to look at this negative space and sketch that in up there. I'm going to do that first. I'm not going to do any of these little bumps right now. I'm just going to try and get this in the right place. And then this comes like that, almost. Yeah. See, I'm looking at this little shape right here. So see, I'm like really utilizing that negative space. Here too. I kind of grouped all these together because I thought we're probably not going to need all these spaces. We might need 1 or 2 of them, but we don't need them all. And then there's that. And then this one, which comes up a little bit bigger. Here's another cluster. This kind of comes straight out. What's really neat about this in my mind is it's really kind of the essence of simplification on anything, right? With lots of detail. I'm going to make this super simple here. We're just going to do this. We're going to do that. And then we're going to do like kind of a separation here. We'll deal with inner levels of difficulty, smaller shapes later. These ones will be plenty enough. Oh, I see this one comes all the way. See, I even was like tempted to go into detail there, but nope. Stop myself. Yes, and then there's that. So you should have something that looks a little bit like that, like some weird mutated, you know, Volkswagen bug daisies or something. I don't know, 1970s. We're old enough to know what that is.
Did that come after Hitler?
What's that?
It didn't it? Yeah,
Did that come after what?
Hitler.
Hitler?
It was in the 60s.
No, I
The
remember at the time.
1970s? Yes.
Yeah,
well,
I know the Volkswagen Bug was supposed to be the people's car in Germany.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, it means people's car.
It means people's car. That
I knew a
is
lot
good
of
to
people
know.
who wouldn't
I'd
go
have to
anywhere
Google
near a
that.
Volkswagen.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Huh.
You want me to Google that right
He
now?
wasn't
while you
exactly
guys-
a social, he wasn't like a people's man, really, was he?
Yeah, he was a
Only certain people.
yeah, him. He was just like Putin. So go ahead and take your time. Take your time to do this. Send it over.
Well, really, for the stems, I felt I messed them up a bit yesterday because I first tried to do them in pencil and they end up being too wide. And I think maybe it's just best to do it straight on paint that way.
I think so too in soft. Notice we don't add our stems in until later, right? Like they're kind of an element that we put in to create a little bit more structure where needed. And that kind of depends on the rest of your brush strokes, right? Like, so however you're working your brush strokes is kind of
Maybe
how
I'll just
much
do a
you'll need
thin,
stems.
I'll just do like one thin line just to have the shape or a direction.
Great idea. When you're done, guys, by the way, just send it over.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
But you can also just leave the space where it is, Sandra, and put
Well,
it in later. You don't need
because
that.
I want to sketch some leaves.
I feel like the leaves in this, like always when you're painting flowers, the focus is on the actual flower. You start that first, and then everything else is kind of considered support background. We know the background is very important, so it's not like I'm saying the background isn't important, but you kind of focus on the subject first. And then you let the subject dictate how you've painted the subject, dictate how much background you need.
I must say it's much easier doing flowers. Well, these flowers than animals. And animals is much easier than people.
Yeah. But everything has these, the idea of working through subjects is that we start, and I feel like you're starting to figure this out, Sandra, is what are the techniques to deal with different things? How are fur and grass similar? How are multiple petals, right, similar to those two subjects? Like, how is any kind of level of detail kind of similar? How do we handle it? It's an interesting, it's an interesting question. And you start to learn it as you go through, become familiar with your materials.
I mean, I find part of what I like about it is that I have to spend a lot less time drawing. And I can spend more time painting.
Looks pretty. I'm just looking. I'm looking at yours, Scarlett, and just like checking. Good. This comes up a little higher. If you can see, this little triangle between these petals comes up almost to the top.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, only because you're going to run into that later and be like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be totally anal about this, but this is good. This is good. Great, excellent. So, Pat, you can send this to me when you're done. There's no rush, but Scarlett, when you're done with that, you're gonna then go in and pull in a few of what we call the negative spaces, right? You're not going to do really many petals, but you're going to do a couple of the bigger negative spaces within each group. Can you see how I'm working the edge? I'm not really bringing any lines down. I think that's enough here. So I'll send you a picture. It probably, after doing this other job, feels pretty normal. Maybe here, maybe here, right? Not too much else. And then here, these guys are kind of important. That's important. This is a tricky one, so be careful. Maybe one or two. So we kind of approach this almost like we're carving it rather than let's see. Good. Pat, I think this comes out a little bit more. So you have your line about here,
Okay,
right?
Right.
And it needs to
Yeah.
come down a little bit more.
okay.
Good though, this is looking pretty good. Got so much dirt on my thing, that's good. Good, good, good. This is good, good, excellent. Excellent, yep. See, now we have the space to start to add in these littler shapes. We're not gonna do much more in the pencil drawing stage, we're gonna do more in, and notice the only lines that come through are our clusters, the edges of our clusters. We're gonna bring very few lines in. It's more like that. You're going to find it really helps to pay attention to negative space. Because our tendency is to draw things too big, the negative space is the only thing that's going to help you get direction, like here. And by the way, once you've got those, you can kind of erase these outer lines. Yeah. Be very few lines down. You'll add them, but you're more likely to add them in paint. Ah, now here's an interesting thing. I think I made my petal too big here, so I have to kind of pull in, I have to kind of reshape a little bit. You might find yourself reshaping your envelopes a bit.
I made mine all too short, even though I had.
Yeah, so that, but this, right, this technique means you can catch yourself. You can catch it as you do it. It's not that you're not going to do it. We're totally going to do it. It's what we do as humans, as human drawers. It's what we do. Everybody does it. You've watched me do it about 10 times myself. So I'm not excluding myself from this. It's more like creating a system where you can catch it. I'm all about the, what happened here? Where am I fixing? Am I about to get kicked off? No. What? I can see I've frozen a little bit. I know. Whoops. Wow.
Yeah.
Funny, I'm still here, but my other one is. I'm going to leave the meeting and come back on my second laptop. Oh, stop. Fantastic view. Tablet, let's switch that over. Okay. We are back.
We're stealing things. Kelly, I'm sending you my sketch. Oh,
Problems with my notebook here.
I don't know whether. I think I made some too short. I'm changing it.
Can you, okay, let's say, yeah, those ones, I mean, it's hard for me, I just need to.
Oh, but let
bring
me send
down
you the
your
picture next to
photo.
it.
I got it. Let me do it. I got it right now. What do you think is too short?
The petals that are in front here,
No,
you know,
they're
they're supposed to
short.
be shorter.
They're
Okay.
short. They're good. That looks good.
Okay.
Get the side, well, work on the center and get the edge of your, here we are. Let's see. No. Oh, for heaven's sakes. There we go. Back.
What did you mean by the center, Leah?
The center has some dark edges around the bottom, and
Right.
the center is itself is a little bit up rather than centered fully, right? Because we're looking at it from the side.
Right. So mark this already, you mean?
Yeah, so mark that out because you're going to want that. All right, here we are.
Okay.
Back to it. Sorry. There we are. Let me rush and finish this. You guys don't have to rush. No rush, please. The whole point of this is to be at least a little bit relaxing. I think it's helped. We have a lot of people in Poland right now. A few Ukrainians. Everybody's pretty stressed out. So.
Yeah, because even those people who don't have a stake in this are working very long and hard hours.
Yeah. And also, if you're in Poland, you know,
Oh,
1
you're
million, 2
living it day
million
to day,
people
yeah.
are hanging out. One of our participants was saying that even in Gdansk, where she was from, you know, she just walked out to walk the dog in the morning, and there was these poor Ukrainian refugees just asking for help to get to the train station so they could get to Krakow and Warsaw. Whole thing is a mess, big old mess. Can you see now we're starting to get this feeling of shape? It's nice.
So now
You don't need so much. This is part of the idea of Impressionism, is that we don't need that much to suggest. Our brain will kind of fill it in for us. This is what the painters all discovered when the camera was invented back in the 1800s. Before that, the painters were trying to be as accurate as possible because they were the camera. And then, you know, the camera's invented. The painters are like, well, what the heck are we supposed to do? So they kind of reinvented what a painting is. And now a painting is a very specific thing that's very different from a camera. And in fact, people will spend way more time in front of a painting trying to figure out how, you know, the artist did what they did. A little bit here. Let's see here. Okay, so I see what's happening. There's like a little here and there. And now, if a photographer is trying to be artsy, they try to make their photograph look like a painting. Kind of come full circle. Here we go.
Is Rob into that kind of photography?
That's a good question. I do a lot of paintings based on his photos, particularly the stuff he takes at night when he's coming off of work.
Kind of like his vision to begin with.
Yeah,
Okay.
he just has a kind of great sort of isolated. He tends to capture the city at moments of quiet, which are really fun to see. I haven't painted one of his in a while though. Compositionally, they can be a little messy. So they don't always work, but when they do, kind of nice.
Do you ever collaborate?
We do
That's nice.
a lot more earlier, not as much these days. And see what happens when you erase how much we have a feeling of the movement of the flowers. They look good. I find this way of working it's not exactly easy, but it's doable as opposed to the impossible task of trying to paint every petal, which you cannot do, which always looks dumb. And just so that you you recognize you're not alone. There's a lot of painters that try to do that and it doesn't work. Never seen anybody, unless you're like a super realist painter and you want to make your thing look like a photograph. The essence of Impressionism, which is how we all think of a painting now, really, universally, is that we show more with less, right? We want to see how little do we need to suggest the image.
Oh, what an idiot. Ah, what a mess.
What?
I was trying to get more liquid out of my, my liquid thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the cap on, so I kept pressing into it. So now I've got a lot of stuff in the cap. I haven't quite got the hang of that thing.
So we should have something like this. And then the last bit, of course, is to try and get in some of these dark areas that are for the most part on the bottom of the circles of the pollen centers. That's because we're looking, you can see it very clearly here, right? We're looking not just at the circle, but at the side and the top of the circle. Over here, it's kind of like, can you tell what direction the light's coming from in this photo? These things will help you.
Top left?
Top left, no.
No?
Well, it might be flipped for us.
Oh, do you think?
Like this.
I don't know.
No, it's not flipped. You can tell by looking at this center where the light is coming from. It's
Yeah.
kind of over
Right.
here
Right.
and
Yeah.
here. Right? And then like this is sticking up, so it's catching a bit. This is sticking out, so the light's kind of coming down and hitting down here.
But it's also hitting the back of that flower.
Well, there's light coming from all over, but the main light source is coming from this direction because of this. There we go. you want to, you can kind of mark, I can do this in pencil, the darker areas. You'll see that like kind of petals that are covered up tend to be darker. Right? The stuff that's kind of peeping out is always a bit darker. So that's where you might have some detail. I'm trying to sort of draw it out for you so you can see it. It's kind of really obvious in places like this. This is being shadowed by what's above it. So almost everything is kind of a little bit darker. Down here. If you remember Jen Evanhuse's painting, who I just showed you, she's really good at showing that. This is pretty dark. There's kind of a... So you see I'm actually kind of pulling in a few. Now I am kind of pulling in a few areas where I can see dark. This is all a lot of dark. Here, there's a whole upper and a lower layer. I'll send these in. Let me get this in. I'll send both of these in so you guys can see them. So it's kind of like I'm pulling out the top layers by defining
You still.
the darker layers underneath.
Just move the way you must have it.
These are kind of dark at the front. Yeah.
Don't drink.
Okay, so here's the picture of the stars. You'll see the pencil lines are where the key darks are on this drawing. Starting to look more and more. Oops.
Cool.
Make sure you get up and take a break, stretch as well. We have 3 hours. We have so much time. We have time. We have time to do this. Take your time as you're sending it over. Don't send it over in stages so I can see it. I'll start the painting when I see you guys have got your drawings kind of locked in. And if you're feeling lost, that's okay. Send it over. That's a great time to send it over because then I can help you get unlost or less lost. Or just enjoy the moment. I'm going to go make myself a cup of coffee, so I'll be right back. Scarlet looks great. Good job. Just keep adding in your, now you can add in your shadows. Step out and then add in your shadows. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Yes.
I had forgotten these, so I added them. Are they okay? Are they, or shouldn't I have done without them? I'm just showing you. I'm just holding
Oh,
it
you're
up.
showing me on the thing? Oh, no, I think
Yeah.
that's okay. You
These.
can always get, yeah, I think that's fine. That looks great.
Okay.
I love this method. There's Diana. She's out shopping.
Oh.
I was like, where is she? I don't know if you heard me, but earlier I was like, where's
I sent her a
Diana?
message.
Yes.
So is she going to join us?
I don't know. She said
Out
she's out
shopping.
shopping now, so I'm betting not.
Okay. Probably shopping for the handyman. The good thing about this liquid thing is that I had some splashes in place where I didn't want, and you just rub them off.
Right. I'm right. I mean, like the thing about the light, right, is that you can always add more paint on over that. It's just the,
Yes.
yeah. It's just like going from dark to light. Sandra's working in watercolor, so she's using masking fluid to sort of protect her whites, which is something that you have to do. We are really lucky because we're working with acrylic, and we're lucky. We have those of us who are working on this assignment with me have the luxury of being able to go a bit darker on our base because we can lay lights on top, right? With oil and acrylic, you can go darker. In fact, you kind of need to. Pat, how are you doing? What's the news? Any other, have you been on, oh, hold on, I'm gonna wait. All right, so is your painting kind of fairly dry? If you're feeling like it's not dry, you may want to, here, where is it? Here it is. You may want to take your thing and kind of club off a little bit of the, if you're working in oil. If you're working in acrylic, your painting should be dry by now. In oil, we might have to pull off a little bit of the extra. So you can see I'm kind of patting a little bit. Because the thing about oil is it doesn't dry for a couple of days. Even though this technique should dry pretty quickly, it just takes longer to dry, particularly on days like this when it's sort of muggy outside. When it's sunny, things dry much quicker. All right,
Oh, you
so
guys
now,
have a mucky day?
we have a mucky day today.
Mucky
Today
day.
is a mucky day.
I have a nice day. Cold.
I think we have a mucky week
Switching
coming.
weather. We seem to be switching weather. So I'm going to put up a clean here. So the colors I believe we're going to need, not just white and yellow. So we're going to need, I'm going to tape up my thing. Here we are. No, you can't find the edge of the masking tape. I'm like, where the heck is it? Okay. So we're obviously going to need some white on our palette, but we're going to be needing to mix shadow colors as well. So I'm going to stick a little bit, sort of a pile of white on the side here. And Scarlett, you may want to wait a minute before you do this because my paint's not going to dry immediately, but yours will. So kind of watch and then set up your palette and go, because your paint will dry within a few minutes. So I am just getting some light paint out here. It would be good if you had a cool and a warm yellow. So I'm gonna lay down a cool and a warm yellow on this palette. You tell me which one's cool and which one's warm. Oops. Hold on, one more second. I need to grab one more paint. Okay. There we go. Okay, I actually have 3 yellows on here. One is warm, one's cool, one is kind of neutral. It could go either way. So let me take a picture so you can really see them. And tell me which one's warm and which one's cool. Any ideas on that?
I'm not going to help.
The one on the left seems cool.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So this orange on the right is a cadmium, yellow medium, and it's almost orange. Sorry, see, I called it orange. This is a yellow with a bit of red in it. This yellow has no red in it at all. It's cooler. It's kind of bluer tinted. It's got more white, which is also a cool color. This is yellow ochre, which is kind of an in-between. It could go either way. And then I'm going to throw on just a little bit of cadmium red. And ultramarine blue. Ugh, no, don't fall, don't fall. All right. Well, also, when we get to we'll add some more colors as we get to the outside. And I'm going to continue with a little bit of my burnt sienna as well. So that also is going to still continue to play. Just really see it, really see it. So if you remember Jen Evenhuis's painting, there was definitely a distinct difference between her light and her dark colors. So we are going to mix a shadow color for our light, for the lights that are kind of underneath. And you have some options on this, but I think the quickest, sort of easiest way to do it is to mix. I'm doing this with my paintbrush. You could also do it. Do I have a palette knife? I don't have a palette knife on me at the moment. So I'm going to do this with my paintbrush. You could do this with a palette knife. I'm taking a little bit of burnt sienna and a tiny touch of ultramarine blue, and I'm mixing them together. And then I'm adding white. So I'm bringing my white down here and I'm adding it. If it looks too kind of orange like that, I'm going to bring in a little bit more blue. And I should get a kind of very pretty gray. So my dark isn't going to be super dark, right? Because these are all light petals. I'm going to mix. So Pat, what's the principle at play here? Why am I mixing burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to get a gray? What is that about?
That's a good question.
I can.
That's the answer when you don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that.
It's because they're complements, so they're going to make a
It's
blue.
because they're complements. Burnt sienna can read as an orange, and orange is a complement to blue. So whenever you're trying to mix a shadow of anything, you mix the complement.
Okay, I guess I
Right?
didn't see that. Yeah, you're right. It is an orange. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
see that.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked, because it's a little bit sideways. It's not the obvious answer, right?
Yeah,
So
because you
Scarlett, I
at
don't-
dark you use it as almost black.
I don't know what you know about color theory. I can do a very quick summary for you. We'll use this busted palette. So there are, I really am gonna need a palette knife for this. Here we go. Here's my paints. There are three primary colors upon which everything is mixed. There's blue, there's yellow, right? And then there's red. And if I mix yellow and red together, I get orange. Right? If I mix blue and yellow together, I get green. So it's kind of a pukey green because of the type of yellow I'm using. That's a whole other lesson, but we won't get stuck there. We're just kind of talking about basics. And then if I mix blue and red, I get purple. Although this will be a very brown and nasty looking purple because I'm using the wrong red for mixing purple, but that's what we're gonna do. Just to sort of talk about the principles. Imagine this less is pinky and more, less is brown and more is purple, right? So these 6 colors make up the color wheel, the basic color wheel. Red, yellow, and blue are the primaries, and green, orange, and purple are the tertiaries or the secondary colors. These 6 colors are important because they create the complementary color palette. And I'll repeat this over and over again, so don't worry about it. Colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel are complementary colors. Right? So that's blue, orange, red, green, purple, yellow. These are the complementary color pairs because you can see they're kind of actually exactly opposite each other on the color wheel. And what's important about them is that if you put them next to each other, they'll pop each other forward. They're very bright. That's why you see a lot of these pairings in high school teams, right? Purple and yellow was my high school colors. Blue and orange, a lot of high school colors. Red and green, less often, but you know, Christmas, all that stuff. So if you put those 2 colors next to each other, they'll pop each other forward. They're very vibrant. If you mix them together, you get a gray. You get a shade, you get a yellow that's more neutral or shaded. So when you're mixing, so for me, you could actually mix grays out of any of the complements here for your petals. But because I see so much orange here, because orange is in our base, I thought easy, let's just take a little bit of orange and blue. Burnt sienna can be orange, it can't be blue. Sorry, it can be orange or red. Let's mix these 2 together and see if we can make a pretty gray with it. So your grays all come from mixing complements. We never mix black and white. Black, in fact, I don't even have black in my palette. I don't even use it because it's not, because I want to mix my black from all my different complements. I can actually mix a fantastic black from these 2. That's really, really beautiful. So, so we're always, if I'm mixing my shadows, I'm always working in that direction. I want to make my shadow just a little bit darker. And see how I'm kind of tweaking it? Sometimes I can't tell how my gray is going to look. Is it too much one color or too much the other? until I mix the white in, and then I can kind of adjust. I can make it a little bit bluer if I want. I can pull in a little bit more orange and make it better. But it's a very, very pretty gray. So when I come in here and go for my petals, because I've already kind of outlined the darker, oh yeah, that's like super dark. See how, oh wait, sorry, you guys can't see that. Now I'm painting. You can see how dark that is. I'm going to actually add more light to it. I want it to be dark, but not too dark. So see how I'm kind of adding. And Pat, we're going to need to, Scarlett, you can just mix yours and wait a few minutes until it dries and then add your lighter colors on top. So if you wanted to go over with more gray, Pat and I have to be a little bit more careful. Notice I'm still using my big brush. I have not switched to the smaller brush yet. I'm going to get rid of this so you guys can see. Well, at least I had the video going for that part. That was important. Right, I can maybe even bring in the lines a little bit. See how I'm really kind of sort of broad brushing in. My darker areas. Coming up here. And notice also that I'm not really getting stuck on one particular flower. I'm kind of looking for a rhythm. As I kind of move around. I think that's pretty good. Now, once I do this, I'm going to clean my brush. So at this point, you're using water, Scarlett, to paint with your brush. Pat, we are just using paint. So you're going to use your Gamsol, but only to clean off your brush. And in between, hold on, I need to get more paper towel to show you. So you're going to dip your brush in your Gamsol like that. Clean out.
Just clean it.
Yeah, just for cleaning. And then spread it out. And then I can go in with kind of a more brighter white and brush in kind of on top. So over here, for example, where it's kind of lighter on top. And notice I'm not painting every petal. I'm still looking for groups. And notice, now this is, Scarlett, where the difference between oil and acrylic will become very plain. My oil isn't dry, so I can kind of blend into it and on top of it. See how I can kind of brush in over the top, and it mixes a little. Yours will dry more quickly, so you won't really have that ability as much. So I'm letting some of the, I'm not painting every petal out, but I am trying to get kind of a variation between my light and my darks. So that's the challenge. Those of us with oil have a little bit more time to do this. The downside of oil is that we have a lot of time. If we get too dark, there's a point where we can get too muddy. and lose, right? Our top layers we often can't finish entirely in time. I'm not painting every petal. I'm painting groups. But because I've delineated my groups very clearly between light areas and dark areas, it kind of looks like I did paint every petal, but in a good way, not in a bad way. not in a loose way, in a good way, in a loose way, in a loose way. So there's a kind of move here. Oh yeah, that looks pretty. Already it looks kind of pretty. And with this background, it also looks really pretty.
I'm sort of at the same stage, Leah, and I'm totally messing it up, I think.
It's hard because you've got to go lighter, right?
But also because now that because I don't have lines, I can't see which parts are supposed to be dark.
So go back to your so just remind, you can sketch it onto your source if that'll help you.
It's too late now. Oh,
kind of helps to do that sometimes. Here, hold on, I'm trying to get this.
I'm sort of doing it in a haphazard way, and that means it doesn't really read.
Mm-hmm. So you could also mix purple and yellow and white to make a gray, and you could mix red and green and white to make a gray. And you might like those grays better. I just kind of went which was most expeditious, would get me there fastest. Look at these beautiful, or but you'll notice grays. I kind of like the blue of this gray. I must be being influenced by Jen's blue underpainting, because I'm kind of pushing my shadows a little bit more towards the blue unconsciously without even thinking about it. I really love her as an artist, and I took a class with her once. So once somebody's your teacher, they're kind of always your teacher. Here, I'm going to photograph this. There we go. Here's a little bit of those, picture of that mix. So you guys can see that too. Sometimes it's hard to see.
That looks pretty.
Yeah, already.
Leah, can I send it to you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm just grabbing my battery, my plug right now, so I can re-plug this in. There we go. Oh, I love this. Oh my God, I think it looks great, Sandra.
Really?
I like it. Take your green background
Mhm.
and clean up some of the edges of the edge of the white that way. So instead of going with white, take your green, take a skinny brush in your green background and just like, if you're worried about your petals looking kind of wobbly, give yourself
Right.
some sharp edges.
Strangely enough, I've been trying to do that, but because of watercolor, it doesn't always.
Right. You need special brushes and this kind
It's
of
too
really steady
transparent.
hand.
Do you know what I mean? I would need many layers. But I'm trying.
Mix a little blue in with your red in with your green, and you'll have a darker
But it
line.
has to be the same green as the background, otherwise I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's because I didn't control the. I made a mistake about the that rubber thing. I went around the edge, and around the edge, that means it was like a big, thick thing.
Hmm.
Whereas I should have gone with a thin one around the edge and then put the thick thing inside.
Oh yeah, I got you.
That's okay.
That's the
So
material you're
learning.
learning. Pat, that
Yeah,
looks
exactly.
lovely. Doesn't that look pretty already?
Yeah, I kind of like
Look
it.
at how they're blending in. So we're gonna sort of add more nuance as we go in. Maybe we'll finish this one, who knows? Let's wait a second. Sorry, I accidentally muted myself. Okay, so, and we're still using our thick brush, which is kind of nice. There's a sort of looseness to this that's really lovely. The yellow, looking at this sort of yellow, I'm gonna grab a little bit of ochre, yellow ochre, which is this color in between, a little bit of cad yellow, a little bit of red, no more, too much red. Easy to get a lot of red. You want it to be more yellow. Maybe I can add in just
Alors,
a
oui, c'est
little
Sandra. J'ai plus ou moins fini déjà.
T'as plus ou moins fini?
Ouais, c'est pas une merveille ma peinture. Je peux pas
Oh, your
tellement
friend
aller plus
is
loin,
there.
donc je me dis autant les marcher si jamais tu es déjà libre.
Your friend is there.
Donc, laisse-moi un quart d'heure. Disons que je serai chez. On se retrouve donc.
She has no idea. We can hear your
Je
entire
veux que le
conversation.
jardinage, c'est plutôt soit gelé, soit de la boue dans le jardin. Donc, j'imagine que dehors, c'est la même chose. On peut aller au parc, mais je ne sais pas trop.
Ok. Donc,
je ne sais pas trop. Il faut rester quelque part où il y a de la lumière.
Okay, now I just feel like a voyeur. I'm gonna mute her. One day she'll figure out that we can hear the whole thing, but since I don't speak French, I couldn't really understand what Sandra was saying. I love listening to her speak French, but I was wanting to do some instructions. So, all right, so this color, so here's the interesting thing. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go darker before we go later. I'm gonna mix a little bit more of my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue. So I have a kind of darker mix. And I'm going to go into the areas that are darker and really add that in. So you see how I'm kind of like, I've mixed this dark, going in here too. This is really just a little bit of blue, and orange. And then I've taken yellow ochre, cadmium yellow medium, touch of orange. Quickly realize I need more yellow, but I want a kind of orangey yellow. Oh yeah, I need way more yellow here. Let's do that. So I want something more kind of orangey. Yep. So it's mostly cad yellow medium. And I'm brushing that in around my dark areas. See how I'm kind of going right over the edge? And then the last thing I'm going to do is kind of brush them over into the dark areas so that I don't have a strong line, but there is a feeling of kind of demarcation. I'm almost doing kind of a tapping. I haven't really got to like the dots yet, but you see how I can still see the dark, but it's not so prominent. It's a little bit more prominent here where it's more clear. So I'm brushing this in and I'm brushing it kind of over. So Scarlett, your challenge will be to keep, to make sure both sides of your paint are wet, which means you might have to keep getting the darker side wet and then take the lighter side and kind of brush in over it. I'm going to do the same thing here. Notice
so it's a good idea to have both colors ready.
Yeah, to have both colors ready. Yeah, unless you're like a super fast mixer.
Not me.
Like me, right? See, I'm kind of mixing it as I'm doing it. So see how I'm taking like my lighter color and kind of blending it over my darker so that there's still a transition, but it's more subtle. I haven't really done the dots yet. I'll probably kind of add that in on the later levels. Sandra, we could totally hear you. No, where is she? Where are you? Anyway, oh, she'll come back eventually.
There was cad yellow, yellow
Yes.
ochre, and red.
We could totally hear your whole conversation in French. It was really charming.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
No, it's great. Like we all just listened for a while and then I tried to tell you and you were so engrossed in the conversation.
You know what I did is that I lowered your sound almost completely.
Ah.
So that's why I couldn't hear you. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
What an idiot. I lowered your sound, but not mine.
Right. Got it.
I'm going to go meet my friend for a walk.
Okay. Oh, is she
I
still
think
there?
What do you mean?
Oh, this is not your friend that's
Oh, this is a
visiting.
different friend. This is an
Yeah.
Iranian friend, actually. But
Is
you
this
know,
Zainab?
no, she's Turkish. Her name is Roya. She was interested, actually. I once asked her a few prices of lessons. She was kind of interested. She's interested in watercolor. We met at the gym, and we've been very good friends for a long time. She's a human rights lawyer.
Oh, that's amazing. Awesome.
But she puts together a database of all the human rights violations by the Iranian state. So it's people getting killed and beaten.
So
It's
fun
very
day
depressing.
job.
It's very depressing.
Just an
If you-
easy day job, nothing
She-
too much. Just
she
show up,
named
do
it.
some-
She named it. It's like a charity foundation named after her father, who was stabbed to death in Paris.
Well,
He was in the Iranian opposition. But anyway, we're very good friends, and I haven't seen her in ages. So we're going to go for a walk.
oh, wonderful.
And,
Well, you enjoy.
I'll send you my. I've signed it and stripped it.
Sandra, I think you have really made a good progress this week. You should feel very proud of yourself. You took it in steps. You're like kept showing up to class and you just kept doing it until you started figuring things out. So next week,
Yeah,
let's try
I'm
an
learning.
iris. You're
So,
learning.
yes,
It's
I'm
so
looking forward to the
delightful. Like your facility with the brush is just really, it's really wonderful. Great work. Enjoy your walk.
Well, thank you. It's not. I'm not that. The result is sort of what my brother approved of yesterday's Daisies, and we know
Oh, those were really
Bodies.
great.
what a tough judge he is.
Right. If a Mahler says they like it, then they really like
I
it.
know my dad was
That's not
very easygoing. I
bullshitting.
think it's only my brother, my mom would, and he's not like that about other things. He's actually a very lenient, very easygoing guy.
Laid back guy. Yeah, I think I've actually observed that your brother is like, what is this? Or like, he'll be like, it
Well,
seems
no,
like
but
the
I can
lines are not right or something. He'll say stuff
I
like
say
that.
like, have you seen it? He says, yes. Yes.
Yes,
So when he says it's good,
it's
and I'm
good.
very
No,
happy.
you can trust him.
I'm going to send it to you now. I'm just charging my phone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad about all this experimentation, the salt, the rubber thing.
Yeah. The masking fluid, I think, is a big one for you because I think that's gonna be a big security, for you,
I can't
like as you're
wait
going
to
forward,
try
so
it.
that you can really protect the things. Shoot, you could put a little bit of masking fluid on one of your cat eyes, in
Yes,
the
the
area where the
eyes.
highlight is. So you can kind of protect and preserve those as you're adding the darks in around. And there's a lot of things you can
Exactly.
do with that. Yes, bravo. Great work, Sandra. I'm
And
really impressed.
also, the whiskers I'm going to try.
Hey, can you send across the other daisies you did on the thread too?
Sure.
So these guys can see the progression. Send them over. They're lovely.
So I just sent this today.
Looks great.
And then this is yesterday's, the one my brother approved of.
It looks great.
And that's not mine.
Send over the one with the, yeah.
So
really
the
works.
first one, which is the last one, wasn't great. It's a bit too.
But that's okay.
Washed
Show
out.
it because it shows progress. So
You
you
see
guys
the
can
evolution.
see across the thread. This was when was this? This was
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday, and Sunday. So there were different subjects. You kind of worked with different subjects, and it's turned out great. Good job, Sandra. Go enjoy yourself. Get your walk.
It was fun. I'm gonna go outside.
Good to see you, dear.
It's my birthday tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you.
Yay!
So I've taken the day off.
Have a wonderful day and do everything you
Thank
want to
you.
do, and have sushi and do all kinds of great things.
Unfortunately,
it.
it's Monday. Fishes are not good with sushi.
Oh, really?
But I'm gonna have sushi another day.
Have a birthday week.
Anyway, bye,
Happy
guys.
birthday,
Have
Sandra.
fun.
Great work today. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. How are you guys doing? So Scarlett, how is your paper holding up? Is it just
Well,
gone?
So I got kind of behind because I was like trying to find, I was like, maybe I can just kind of like
Right.
watch this. So I was kind of like not paying attention in the mixing. Now I'm like,
Do you want me to repeat that for you?
yeah. I mean, I know it's recorded, so I can watch it later. but-
Yeah, let's repeat that. So did you catch the gray for the flowers?
No.
Okay.
Well,
So the gray is complementary colors, blue and orange. Here, hold on. I'm going to need to clean my brush off here for a second. And notice I'm still using my big brush. I have not.
which blue are you using?
Ultramarine blue
Okay.
and burnt sienna. So if you can see here, I've got burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and I'm mixing them together. And then to see what this looks like as a lighter gray, I'm going to pull in some white. Because I want my dark to be dark, but it's kind of like a mid-tone, right? So can you see how I've mixed a kind of pretty gray mid-tone? If I think it's too blue, I can add in a little bit more. Oh, that's way too blue. So I can add a little bit more, orange into the mix and more white. So you start with that, and that's how you get the darks in. And then you just use white on the top, but you're going to do a kind of sweeping stroke. So notice I'm getting these in. And then quickly, before my paint dries, I'm going to sweep in my white over the top. And I'm not doing every petal. You'll see these are still clusters, but they're kind of in some cases blending up and over the gray. But we're still letting the gray come through. So the picture of the dark, did I take a picture of the dark? Let me see if I did. Yeah, it is recorded, but let me look and see if I got it. I might not have. Oh no, I did. Oh, no, I didn't. So I did it with, I did not take a picture of just the gray, but you can really see the gray here.
So the gray is just the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue
And white,
and some white. Okay.
Lots of white.
right, lots of white. Right, because you need it, you don't want it dark. If I just do burnt umber and ultramarine. So I did that whole conversation about like, for you about color theory and you missed it.
Well, I did take
Just kidding.
I know the
Just
opposite
kidding.
color.
I'm totally giving you shit. It's on there if you want it. It's on there if you want it. I'm not giving you any trouble at all.
I was
get
like,
it. This
I
is the-
painted a color wheel. I've done it.
you know. Okay, that's great.
But yeah.
That's great. I'm sorry. I'm like teasing you. Don't let me do that. Pat will tell you Pat, you tell her what to do when I get like that.
You yell at her.
Just yell
Tell
at
her not
me.
to bug you.
Just yell at, yeah, tell her, yeah, tell me not
Just
to.
say positive things, Leah. That'll help us, right?
The thing that Pat says that always just stops me in my tracks is, well, now I feel like crying. Which is
Now I feel like what?
crying. She knows my weak spot.
Actually, what I said last week was don't be mean.
Don't be mean. Yeah, don't be mean. It was fantastic. Yes. So anyway, yeah, don't worry about it. It's all there if you want it. But yeah, if you mix complements together, you'll get grays. And blue and orange is a complement, and burnt sienna could be an orange, also could be a red, depending on if you're mixing it with other things. So burnt sienna is really great because it's this very versatile color that you can mix with a lot of things to get gray. The challenge is to keep using your big brush.
Yeah.
So that you don't get too, right? You'll notice here, I still don't have that. I have a few petals, but not that many. Really, I've still got more sweeping groups, but I have the feeling of petal already, which is interesting, right? And I've paid special attention down here to this dark edge because I feel like this dark edge here is interesting. It's got some beautiful kind of, overlaps, lights over darks happening. You want that to be showing more than kind of the medium layers happening over here. So yeah. Let's see.
I sent you something.
Let me see. Oh, Pat, that's great. So now tap it out a little bit, right?
Yeah,
So
I've already
pull a
started
little
doing
bit-
that.
Yeah, perfect. So just sort of pull a little bit of your yellow mix in over the top of this
Yeah, and then I
so
pulled
that
too
you can
much. and-
still see. Yeah, it's a dance, isn't it? So you can still see it. You want it not to be so strong. We'll go back in with the skitty brush and like add a little bit of detail in here. After this, we'll definitely do background.
I feel like last week has really helped me with this week.
That's the idea. Is I was hoping that it would be a build because it's similar, so that
Mhm.
you're not getting caught up so much in the details. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Maybe with my brushwork, I think I'm a lot looser on this one than.
'Cause
Well, let me
know-
show you the two of them together.
Okay, send it over. Oh, that does really look good, Pat. It does. It looks really good.
I don't feel like I have really good control with my brush. I don't know if that's
Well, this is the first brush lesson you've had for a while, right?
right. Yeah, no,
Right.
I haven't really done.
Yeah. So, and that's why you shouldn't feel like you have control over your brush. That's one of the reasons that we're using a big brush, right? Because you're going to be doing less. Probably what's also happening is Scarlett, is that you're wanting to add more detail than you really should be at this level. So that's your left brain is kind of fighting with you to get more detail in than you actually need. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
part of it. It's like
like
it's a seeing
Sloppy.
thing.
Yeah.
it's a seeing thing as much as it is a actual problem with the brush. The brush is doing what you want it to, but the brush is doing what it should be doing, but you're not convinced that that's what it should be doing. It's funny. Oh, yeah, Pat. Yeah, absolutely. I see that. Yes. Thank you for putting those side by side. It really does show the difference.
I'm
It
feeling
totally
a lot
does.
looser.
It's feeling looser, right? You can see it and you're not so stressed about it. So you can kind of see the dark light shape patterns. Yeah, I'd say that builds up a lot over a week. Irises are totally different, really fun. They've got a lot more structure, but they're kind of easier because they've got less petals and more hard lines, which will sort of a nice combo of hard and soft lines. So that'll be a nice kind of break from all this petal stuff. Whenever I want to go looser, I will often paint a floral, work on florals for a while, and iris is my favorite. Do you guys want me to show you how to do background? Because we're kind of getting to that point. Do you want me to demonstrate it? You don't have to do it. I can demo it. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, can you do things like salt in oil?
No,
No.
that's definitely a water. You could do it with acrylic, but I don't know how well it would work. But you can. It's definitely a watercolor technique. It's definitely a water technique. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't think you can. I've never heard of that happening. I feel like salt would break apart and kind of wreck the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is green, and I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna, which can play as a red or a green, in with my green to create a kind of greenish dark. And I want this to be quite dark because I'm going to kind of come in here. Let's see.
You're still with a big brush.
I'm still with the big brush.
Okay, so you're not trying to make.
Details yet.
Oh,
We
I
may
see.
not do that in this layer. See, I'm doing this. And I'm using my background to kind of delineate my petals a bit in the areas where it's dark. So I'm sort of following this pattern. Why am I not just putting green on there, Pat? Why is straight? Why am I not putting straight green?
I think it has something to do with one color alone. It really needs something else to.
It just doesn't look natural. Yeah, there's
Thank
no
you.
greens. There's no
Didn't have-
greens. There's no greens in a tube that can create the colors of nature.
Oh, plus you always put a little bit of the contrast.
A complement in
The
for
complement
nature colors.
into a
Yeah,
color.
for nature colors I do. So see how I'm kind of working around the edges here to sort of push back. Now I know there's not dark everywhere, so I'm actually going to try and do a slightly darker version of this. So I'm just taking.
I need help on backgrounds. Everybody's background looks so pretty. Mine looks like.
Well, you're watching me right now. Do it.
I know.
Watch me. Watch me. So I'm using green and red.
Little tiny bit of red or a bunch of red?
I had a bunch of red in this one.
Okay.
See, and I'm kind of following the pattern that's in here. Can you see that? I'm kind of following that pattern. So there's a little bit of like a different color here. And then over here, let's see, let me wipe off my brush again. We've got this kind of blue and white thing going. So I'm just going to take blue and white, but a little bit darker. Oh, shoot. Let's see what I'm doing here. Mixing in blue and white, right? And now I'm doing that. I'm putting in the blue. Maybe I want to go a little lighter. My slightly darker blue is not working. Here, I'm going to get myself more white. I'm almost out. Here. Scott, how many lessons did Seamus buy you?
I think I
How many
just
lessons
got
did-
one, but
Just one? He brought her a Christmas present. It's so cool. So you can see that like I'm creating a kind of whitish blue that's light enough that that's dark enough that it'll still read as darker than my whites. But it's light enough that it'll make my grays look darker, right? The gray. As I'm working around the grays, I'm kind of making my blue a little bit darker. And when I'm working around kind of lights, I'm making my blue a little bit darker. So see how this is really key, kind of halfway through your painting, to use your background to kind of push forward everything else. So we do that by making your background kind of lighter against the darker area or darker against the lighter area. What's really happening here? There's a bit more. We're going to need to get into a bit more detail here. You see how this kind of instantly helps sort of push things forward. Okay, I'm going to move up here so you can see. Oh yeah, that's starting to come along. Yeah, I'm still using my big brush.
So are you going into the petal itself? Because,
No, I'm
because you're
going
using
around.
such a big brush?
I'm going around. I'm using the
Around,
edge. See, I'm using the corner
Oh, okay, okay.
when I go in. So as I go in, obviously like here is pretty easy, but when I'm coming in here, I'm kind of using the corner.
Just turn it, okay.
Yeah, I'm just turning it. You'll notice I do this so naturally, I don't even think about it. This is because I'm really used to working with a brush, right? I like a brush better than a pencil. And after 20 years of doing this, I swear to God, you're going to feel this way too. But if it feels a little bit weird at the beginning, that's okay, right? You're just kind of getting used to the idea of using a brush. It's a very specific tool. Some people really take to it right away. Other people need a little bit more time, right, to kind of develop it. I've got tape up here. Let's see. Notice I'm kind of darkening my blue a little bit around some of the lighter edges, and then I'm blending it out, meaning you don't see a straight line, you just see a sort of evolution of color happening. Let's see. Yep. There. Yeah. So now all of a sudden, I've got something that feels too great. Now I'm starting to have a little bit of back and forth. So this is a really classic way of thinking about your painting, right? We're always, once again, just like with the drawing aspect, we are taking the bigger dark and light shade. We start with our subject, get a little bit of detail on our subject. Then we add in our background so that we can help our subject kind of push forward, and look at how much the background work, heavy lifting the background is doing to push my painting forward. Then I can go back in and know where I need to add detail. If I tried to add detail before I added in my background, I might over detail. I might add too much detail, right? But if I do it, there we go, there we go. Afterwards, so I'm once again starting with the bigger shapes, moving to the lighter shapes. Pat, thank you for sharing your last week's painting, which by the way, I think you did a really good job with. Because I love seeing that you're absolutely right. There is a kind of progress that's happening. And it's kind of magical to see it happen. Notice I'm still not worried about these dots. I'm still not worried about the, I'm gonna bring in my dark here. I really like what happens when I bring in the dark here around these edges. If I wanted to, I could totally make it darker all the way around, but I kind of like this light dark iteration. I'm gonna take a picture of this. I don't know about you all, I'm now completely covered in paint. These colors are kind of soft. They're not like strong yet. I might decide to go strong, but here is the point where you want to start adding detail. We may or we may not do that. We might pick up our detail next week, but I'll show you a couple things before we go. I also don't want to rush you. I don't want to rush the process. We also started a little late, so I may like go about 10 minutes late just to show you some things you can do. It's good. I'm feeling like I may have to go in and kind of darken my shadows a little bit, but we'll see.
When you went in the right side a second time with green, it's a different color of green.
Yeah, slightly different because I had other things on my brush.
Okay,
not
so
worried
it wasn't
about it.
on purpose and on purpose.
No, it wasn't on purpose. But like, it's such a big area, it actually isn't too bad to use different, right? Like to kind of vary it a little bit.
Well,
Particularly
yeah.
because I can go over the top and do other things as well. Oh, I see. It's amazing how much it's looking like what's happening here though, right? Without that much detail. Detail is like salt. You don't want to put too much of it in. You want like to sprinkle in it at the end, unless you're my boyfriend and you dump salt into everything. Like, I don't know if you know people like that in your life who use a lot of salt, but it's gonna, generally that's pretty gross. All right. No, I'm gonna wait. I'll wait 5 more minutes and then I'll show you a few details you can add. And we will pick up on this. Well, we'll probably start, we'll do one more flower next week to see how far we get. And then I'll probably have a session where we just work on the 5 flowers, the 2 to 5 flowers that you painted in class. Because we have a bunch to finish and that would be great to have time to do that. How's it going? Is it helping? Adding in your background?
I have a lot of lines in the background.
What?
I have a lot of lines.
In
Let's
what?
see if I can get rid of those in the background.
Oh, take your brush and swirl it like this. Swirl
Oh,
it.
okay.
to get rid of your lines. Right, you're glopping paint on, right? In some places you have more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just tap over the edges where you see a line, kind of swirl it, and that will make everything soft. Like, can you see this one here, Pat? I've got a line here, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm just brushing over it to make it
Okay.
more blendy. More of my lines there. Yeah. So this is a soft edge, right? This blending that we're doing. The edge between the white petal and the background is a hard edge. Everything in your background should be soft right now. The only thing that should be hard are these edges in the foreground.
Will you go over the mixing for the yellow parts again?
Give me just a second here. So the yellow, I've done a couple of things. For the dark areas, oh, wait here. For the dark areas, I've mixed more orange, burnt sienna, and blue together. Okay, to have a kind of a dark. And I might add a little yellow into it to lighten it a little bit, but mostly it's burnt sienna and blue. And those kind of get dotted in kind of around in the dark areas, right? Here. This is good actually, because I can totally demo how to paint these again. Here it's like kind of right here. And then the yellow is a combo. I cleaned my brush so I don't have any shadow color on it. The yellow is yellow ochre, cad yellow medium, and a touch of cadmium red. So I've got this kind of orangey red, no blue in it, right? So then I take that and kind of brush it over the still wet dark. So you see how I just pushed that dark back? You'll see it here. So I have a bunch of paint on my brush. You can see the layer. And now I'm kind of blending it over the top so that there's still kind of a transition between light to dark, but it's a little bit less intense because you can see you don't really need that much. This is what we call a soft edge, where you have a contrast area, but you kind of blend light over dark. The only place I haven't really done that is here, where it's a little bit stronger, where the dark is a little bit more intense. You see, everything else kind of benefits from this soft edge. So I basically just mix all my yellows together and added a little red for the light. Oh yeah, that looks better. So you can see I kind of lost my dark on that first blending round. So I could go back in and do it, add more. And while we're doing that, let me show you a couple of other things we can do, sort of adding in details. I'm gonna give myself a little bit more white. So now I have a little brush. Here, hold on, I'm just getting the white out. Oh yeah, here it is. Now I'm getting into sort of more details. So I have a kind of smaller brush. And maybe there are some areas as I look at this piece where I want to have a little bit more strength in my lights. So maybe around here, right? I might add in a little bit more depth, and I might also kind of bring it in here a bit more. Maybe here. There's a cute little, right? There's this little flirty thing here, this little white area here. This one little petal that kind of blends in whiter over everything else. So I can kind of go around and add a few light details in a couple places. Not everywhere, but in a few places. Let's see, I've got like, here is a cute little petal in the front. So I can add some of these like little petals, sort of interior petals. But the other thing I'm going to do is kind of go back and forth between that and this dark layer. I can kind of go back in with the dark layer like this, right? And look at what that does. Right? In just a few places, not many, not everywhere. So Pat, where you were observing how the petals come in, in some places, not in every place, but in a few, you can add this little dark shape that's between them. See, to kind of bring in that petal shape. And if you feel like that looks too dark, I can go over the top. So you see now I've got all my colors kind of spelled out here. I can kind of go over with this little light brush and I have a little bit more control. That's a lot. There's a little tiny dark area kind of up here. Not fully, right? But kind of like up here, that helps a lot. Add that in. Maybe I want to go in with a little white here on this side. So I can go back in and add these little details, which will kind of strengthen things, they'll harden things up a little bit for me. Guess it's really happening over here too. But look at how little the strokes are. And look at how little, less is more here. Less is really more. So I might come in on this upper level with some more gray here and kind of push that out a little bit. See how I'm darkening that just a touch here too, because it got a little bit light. And then, is that really, oh shoot, that's not all gray. Here. So let's see, my gray is like here. And then there's another one here. Everything else is sort of white. So now I'm going in and kind of trying to going lighter here, add to sort of reiterate my sky. Really, I'm still kind of working out might go in here, right, and add just a little bit of sort of, notice I'm kind of dotting here, but I'm not trying to recreate every dot, right? Because look at how quickly that kind of overwhelms. So then I go back over with a little yellow. So it's a little bit darker here. There's kind of a neat little short white petal that comes out over here. Can I get that to show? Yeah. I don't have to do everything, but I can add in. This is kind of lighter. So I can make this petal a little bit lighter, and this one, right? See how that kind of pushes things? Everything else in this petal is sort of grayer. This stuff is all underneath this petal. So I don't really see much detail. It's kind of a grayish color. It's not really. Let's actually get gray in there. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of working around edges. It's a little bit kind of lightish over here, because remember that sun is coming from the light. So I'm kind of mixing yellow and white to make it a little bit lighter. This is something I might have to do when my painting dries. Ah, there we go. I don't think I'm totally gonna get it. A little bit lighter here. If I want to go up. I've kind of mixed a lighter color. However, my paint is wet, so I may not be able to get the light that I want on this layer. I may have to wait until this dries to be able to get more light up here. I think I'm going to have to. So there's only like kind of so much I can do. But I don't need to do that much, which is really awesome. Maybe it's a little bit darker here. Right. And a little bit lighter here. Yeah, it's going to be tricky for Pat and I to go too much lighter than this on this layer. This is a great dark layer though, because the lights will look gorgeous up top. So, you know, so much, there's only so much you're going to be able to do light-wise. So that's how you start to address these. We're not going to finish them. How's it going, guys?
I think I've done about what I can today.
Send it over.
Okay.
More will
I'm
happen.
excited to try again with the like better materials.
Oh, what are you using for your substrate? For your, what are you painting on?
I still just have the paper. Like,
Okay.
So I have, like I said, I have this canvas, but I don't know if I need to do anything to it.
Send it over or hold it up. Tell you what, I'm going to remove the spotlight for the
The
moment.
canvas or the paper?
The canvas so I can see it. I'm going to put you in gallery view tonight so I can really see you.
Well, here's the, it was
12 by 12. Oh, that's a great one to do a painting on. You should use that one next.
Okay.
Do
So I
that
don't
one
have to
next.
Do anything to like prepare the surface?
Nope. It's already been gessoed, so you'll be able to just draw right on it next time. Let's see. Pat. Laura D. Really good. Good. The only thing I would do is kind of lighten up this dark spot down here. Yours is looking a little bit too heavy.
I don't
dark,
know
and
what you're
it's-
pointing at.
Oh,
I can only see.
hold on, I'll spotlight.
Okay.
You can see that your little dot here is kind of up here. So it's floating
yeah.
towards the top here, and it's a little heavy. So I would like drift over a little bit of yellow, light yellow over the top there.
And make it smaller at the same time.
Make it smaller and also lighter.
Okay.
This looks, you should feel proud of yourself. This is pretty dang good.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all.
I mean, so mine's really haphazard because
Set it up. Hold on. Oh, hey. Hold on.
it's just my computer paper, and I was
Hey, but
Oh,
the
yay.
principle you have got. The principle you have got down. Congratulations. We should have everybody work on computer paper. The first time.
How
Just
freeing.
so that they don't freak out and think, oh my God, I want, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, anyway. All right. I've taken off the spotlight. Put yourself in gallery view and let's hold these up so we can see them kind of far away. Hold them up. Dang, guys. Well, I'll tell you what, we have 3 very realistic looking daisies. You got it. There's some wonderful brushwork in all of these. I think you kind of nailed the assignment. Right?
We get an
You
A+?
understood the assignment, as they say in TikTok. You understood the assignment.